Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stew with JT Brew here on Fantasy in Frames. Welcome to Week 8 college football betting. Me and my co-host Ben Dyer, we're bringing you all the action, talk about our favorite bets, the over-unders, what games we like, which ones we don't, and some possible player props that we might be looking for as the week continues here. Stick with us here. You're in the stew.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sipping through, sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.
Welcome in, one and all. Benny, thanks for joining me here once again in our usual late night action. We went early last week, but we're back to our normal Tuesday night, finishing off the night here on Fantasy in Frames. We got a couple games going on right now. Take a look at it real quick for everybody who's in it. Right now, Louisiana Tech 14-10 lead over New Mexico State at halftime. That game was on ESPNU. Middle Tennessee State 17-5 winner with about 7 minutes left in that game. Fourth quarter in that one. And then another game I think just went final. Yes, South Alabama just went final 25-9 winner. They covered the -10 over Troy. Troy, a real disappointing 1-5 this year. They've definitely struggled. I did not get on any of those bets tonight, Benny. They just didn't jump out to me right off the bat, and so I just I got busy. I had a ton of stuff going today, and I was like, I'm just going to avoid those ones and kind of keep an eye on the rest of the stuff for the rest of the week.
Yeah, no, and they're just kind of, not great games, but at least there's football going on early in the week, so gives you a little something to watch, pay attention to. But yeah, nothing too great to hop on early in the week.
And so it's finally that week where we got the Tuesday night games. Usually it's action on Tuesday, but we've got the Tuesday night games going on. We got Wednesday night games. We got Thursday night games. We're getting college football all week long now. So if you are a college football bettor, make sure you're definitely checking things out on Sunday, after the Saturday game, Sunday and Monday. As they're getting, we're going to have action Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the rest of the year. So make sure you're jumping on those. See if there's any good games. Couple games tomorrow. I'm not sure if you're in on any of these ones. You like them. We got Western Kentucky 4-2 going to Sam Houston State at 5-1. Right now, Sam Houston State -2.5. Over under is 55.5. And Florida International 2-4 at 0-6 UTEP. Florida International -7 right now. 47.5 is the over-under on that. Anything jump out at you, Ben? I know we've bet Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State a couple times. We kind of felt like UTEP was like maybe a sneaky cover, but they haven't done it for us when we took them. Anything you like on either one of those games for Wednesday night?
Well, I mean, I've had good luck with Sam Houston State. I think that game is going to be a good game. Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State. That's actually for a middle of the week kind of game. That's going to be a pretty good one actually. 2.5. Sam Houston State at home. I don't know. Western Kentucky's a pretty good team too, so that's probably a coin toss kind of game. But that'll be. I'll probably watch a little of that though. That'll be a good game.
It's gonna be some. At least if you're not on the game, it should be some good Wednesday night action.
Yeah, maybe a little live bet action.
Both these teams coming off big wins against UTEP. Western Kentucky won 44-17. Sam Houston State beat 40-21. Western Kentucky only loss so far this year was a 21-20 barn burner at Boston College. So that's the only one they lost. And Boston College has been pretty tough this year. Sam Houston State on the other side, they lost in the season opener to Central Florida, 45-14. And they've won 4 in a row since then, including wins over Hawaii and a 1-point tough battle against Texas State in a big game they came back in. So again, I'm with you on this one. I'm not sure. I just feel like this game is like right there. This game could go either way. I don't have a feeling one way or other that I love a bet on either one of these. If for some reason it got a little higher and it got to like maybe 3.5 Western
Yeah.
Kentucky, I feel like I would maybe jump on Western Kentucky more than a field goal because I feel like this seems like it's a one score field goal game. And so I'd
Yep.
rather have the extra points just in case Western Kentucky pulls out the victory. So that's about the only way I think I would maybe get in on this game. Both these teams have been scoring points. So, that's one you want to look at, but it is 55.5. So again, you're going to have both the teams are going to have to score pretty well right now this year so far. Western Kentucky scoring 28 a game, 31 a game for Sam Houston State. They're both giving up exactly 23.83 points. They're tied for 112th in the league in points against. So they're right there. So that 55 number, it's right there. It's right there.
They're similar teams. I mean, yeah, I would probably lean over just because
I was thinking the same thing. I would maybe, even if you took a 2-team parlay and just moved up Western Kentucky up to that 3, and then you moved it just a hair down, or took it at the 55.5 and on like a two-team parlay pick, that would maybe be my lean. But I think it's going to be an exciting game. For sometimes early in the week we just don't get some duds, but I think this is actually going to be a good contest.
Yep. No, it'd be a fun one.
On the other side, Florida, if you're going to bet on this game, I think you have to take Florida International, though I don't love what they've done this year. They played in a lot of close games, though. So it seems like every game is a one-score game for them. UTEP on the other side, they just haven't been able to get it done. They played a couple games early close and then have absolutely got smoked, like we said, by the last 2 weeks by Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State. If I'm taking anything, I'm taking Florida International. The touchdown favorite I don't love because, again, they've been in every game by one, this one-score game. So I feel like the touchdown favorite is right where it should be. So I'm probably staying away from this one.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna save up for some of these better games, later in the week here. But I'm with you. I think if you're looking one way, it's got to be Florida International. UTEP just can't. They can't get it done. I mean, I don't know though. I guess. But that's what makes
that 7 to me seems like on. I feel like UTEP probably loses that game by 7. So I don't really I don't feel like I'm getting good numbers there. So I'm probably avoiding in that one. Let's talk about the Thursday games. 2 Thursday games. We got Georgia State 2-3 against Marshall 3-3. -9 is Marshall right now, over under 51.5. And then Boston College 4-2 at 3-3 Virginia Tech. That one's a -7 for Virginia Tech. Over under 49.5 are the 2 Thursday night games currently.
Yeah, I've got nothing for Georgia State Marshall, but but I don't know. Marshall's about 9-point favorite at home there. Man, that's a tough one.
Again, this one seems kind of crazy. Both these teams have played.
Looking back at it, Georgia State played Vanderbilt down to the wire, which is kind of crazy.
They beat them. They actually beat them.
They beat them. You're right.
I mean, that's got to be right now.
That.
Has to legitimately be one of the craziest wins this year. Would you see what Vanderbilt has done? They lost in overtime to Missouri at Missouri, and then they go and beat Alabama at home. I mean, the fact that their loss right now, or they would be a one-loss team if they would have beat Georgia State at home, but they lost 36-32 to Georgia State at home, which is just, now going through and looking at it, it's just wild. They scored a touchdown with 15 seconds left in that game to win. It was like damn near the last play of the game. They scored and ended up winning that game. It's just wild now looking back at it that Vanderbilt,
I know.
At the time we were like, whatever. But now you're looking at it, you're like, how did they lose that game to Georgia State after all the other games they played? So again, Georgia State, they've shown that they can play. But, then you turn around, they lose, to Georgia Southern by 17 and then Old Dominion by 7. You're like, okay, you get the nice win on Vandy and then you go around and lose 2 back-to-back tough games. I don't like this one. 9 points seems like too many for Marshall. But again, I don't know if I trust Georgia State.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is a tough one to back either side on this one. But, yeah, I mean, looking at Virginia Tech and Boston College, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I almost feel like they're begging you to bet Boston College here, but I kind of like Boston College. I mean, I like them anyway. Virginia Tech hasn't been like the kind of team people thought they were going to be, and Boston College has played everybody good. 7 points, I guess, at home.
Yeah, everything's been pretty much, a real close game
Yeah.
throughout. So this one's tough for me. I mean, again, it's like the 7 points. You're like, if you would have talked to me at the beginning of the year, I'd be like, oh, I'm all over Virginia Tech. But
Yeah.
again, they've been kind of a hit and miss team this year on whether they've been good or not. Obviously, Boston College, some of it's been if Castellanos plays. So he's
Yes.
missed a couple games with injuries. They're obviously a much different team when he doesn't play. When he plays, he just is such a dual threat guy. Obviously he's the leader of that team. I just think that team plays so much better. To me, I want to bet Virginia Tech, but I think Boston College is the bet. I think the money should be on Boston College at the +7.
Yeah.
Am I crazy on that?
No, I think is Castellanos supposed to play this week?
Yeah, I just looked it up. Right now, I'm not seeing an injury designation for him, but the only problem is we know how it is in college. Sometimes they don't throw those injury designations out till real late. Currently, right now, I think he's supposed to play. If he's playing, I think I want the points in Boston College.
Yeah, that would be the whole thing for me. And the only reason to me this spread could even be 7 is if they're assuming he's maybe not going to play. Because I don't know. I just think if he is playing, this is more of like a field goal type game. These two teams are very even in my mind if Castellanos is playing. So I'd keep an eye on that.
I think this is one. Just like you said, I'm like, keep an eye on that. If you're wanting to bet on this game, I'm not betting until probably maybe 10 minutes before kickoff when I hear like for sure Castellanos is playing. And if he is, then I'm taking Boston College. If he's out, I would want to jump on Virginia Tech before that number gets higher because I can see it going up if they end up saying he's out. And if it gets much more higher than 7, if it gets to 8, 9, 10, I don't know if I feel so good about Virginia Tech. Even with Castellanos out, I'm not sure if I love them as a double-digit favorite at home there.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's pop up our screen here. We're going to we'll pull up our DraftKings screen here, kind of pop through these games, see what we like and what we don't like. Get down here. Some of the first games here. A Friday game, before we get to the Saturday games. It's like there's all kinds of action. 3 more Friday games. First one is Duke 5-1 at home against 1-5 Florida. They're only a 3-point favorite currently at 5-1 against a 1-5 Florida State. To me, this line is just something stinks. Something stinks about this line. I don't know.
Florida State. I don't know why, but it's like
I know it's just something stinks about this line. But I don't know how I don't trust Florida State one bit.
No,
I just don't trust them at all. They just lost their first loss of the year at a really good Georgia Tech team by 10. Florida State looked like they were going to get worked by Clemson, kind of hung around and lost by 16. Maybe that's why this line's where it's at, is they kind of hung with Clemson and then Duke taking the loss to Georgia Tech. And Duke has not played a very tough schedule. Let's just be honest. I mean, they beat Northwestern, who's not good, by 6. They beat Connecticut by 5, who's also not good. Their big blowout of the year is against Middle Tennessee State, who's been pretty terrible this year. 45-17, they won that one. North Carolina has been highly disappointing, and they won that game 21-20 before losing 24-14 at Georgia Tech last week. I just can't put money on Florida State right now. I just cannot do it. If I'm getting on this one, I'm getting on Duke. But God, that line scares me. I don't know why it's 3.
Yeah, there's got to be something. I don't know. Maybe Florida State has started playing some different guys on offense or something. I don't know, but
you also have the name Florida State versus Duke, who's notoriously terrible at football. That can't be everything, though. It can't all be in a name.
There's got to be something going on there, but it makes me definitely pause because I'm like, Florida State's been so bad, and then they're only going to be a 3-point dog to Duke, who's 5-1. So I don't know. I'm probably not doing anything on this game, but that is kind of a crazy line.
The next one here, Oregon, after the monster win against Ohio State. What a game there. I'm still a little bit shocked that Ohio State did not win that game. That one kind of surprised me. Oregon, Purdue was a team that, we talked about it before the show started, crushed me in a 5-game parlay. I hit everything, and the only thing I didn't hit was Illinois covering the 21. And I had it at 20.5, and they were up 21 at halftime.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they let Purdue with a backup quarterback score all over them in the second half. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. Illinois ends up pulling the game out in overtime as Purdue went for 2 and missed it. And Illinois ends up getting the 1-point win, but I had the spread. That one crushed me on a 5-team parlay. This should be an absolute blowout by Oregon.
Yeah.
But is it a little bit of a letdown? After beating Ohio State at home, you got to go Purdue. You're playing on a Friday night after you just played a night game on Saturday, so it's a little bit of a short week. Yeah. And then Purdue, a little bit of confidence after that nice game at Illinois. Are you still taking the points? I mean, I can't take Purdue. There's just no way I can take Purdue in this game. Is it a letdown for Oregon? This feels like a game where in the past, if you were to say any other year, I'm like, Oregon smokes them here.
Right.
But they haven't covered in almost any game this year.
No, especially teams that they should just route. They just don't do it. I mean, they played their best game of the year by far against Ohio State. And, I guess that says something about them. They played, maybe they just played the competition of their team, the team they're playing against. But Purdue, they brought in that other quarterback for the second half against Illinois, and that kid can run. And Illinois had no answer for that.
They were not ready for his rushing ability.
They were not ready for that. They couldn't stop it. Oregon obviously is going to watch film. They're going to know that this kid can run. So they're going to scheme for it. Part of me feels like Purdue might cover this game. I don't know why. It's a lot of points, but again, this is just another one, man. I have zero faith.
I think
I could take Purdue plus the points, but then that'll be the game we're going to just win by 4.
They actually do. I know. I have no confidence because I'm like, this is a game that Oregon should rout them because everybody until this Illinois game has absolutely routed Purdue. Everybody has done it. And then you're like, this would be the game. I'm telling you right now, this is a game that's 27.5. You take Oregon thinking they're going to win by 4 touchdowns, and Oregon wins this game by 24. Yeah. After they're up way early, and then they do nothing late and just win by 24.
Oregon first half. I mean,
that might be the bet.
To me. Yeah,
yeah, that might be the bet. I like where your head's at there. Oregon first half. I definitely like that. The over under 60. Yeah. Man, I just don't know if Purdue. That was their first offensive output of the year. I don't think they can put up points in this game.
No, and that kind of tells you something too, because that means they think Oregon's going to score. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think Purdue is going to be able to put up points like they did against Illinois. That they caught Illinois off guard. Illinois went into half thinking, just like everybody else that was watching the game, thought, this is going to be an absolute rout. I mean, it's 20. They're up 21 at halftime. And Illinois came out in the second half with their guard down, and Purdue came out with a different quarterback. They weren't ready for it, and Illinois is lucky to get out of there. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm probably looking at Oregon first half, and that's if I do anything. But that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
The last Friday night game, late night game, 10:15 Eastern, 9:15 Central Time. BYU undefeated. A little surprising on top of the Big 12, 6-0 against Oklahoma State, whose 3 straight losses been pretty disappointing. No Ollie Gordon last week. Still questionable whether he plays this week. I'm hammering BYU here. It's 9.5. I think BYU has been super impressive at home. Coming off a 41-19 win against Arizona. They also won at home 38-9 against Kansas State. This BYU team's a lot better than I expected they would be this year. I thought they'd be decent in this Big 12. I did not think they'd be this good. And I just think Oklahoma State is a team that we overrated at the beginning of the year. And they're just not that good of a team. They just really aren't. They got some early season wins, and they've just kind of been on the struggle bus, especially without Ollie Gordon. I think a night game Friday night in Provo is too much. I think BYU brings the fans. I think they bring the ruckus. I think BYU smokes them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is really, I think BYU is, there's no doubt that they're the better team here. I mean, Oklahoma State kind of has a history of sneaking up on people, though. And they, if they're going to salvage their season at all and try to do anything, this is, I mean, they're coming off of 3 straight losses. It's a game they have to be all in, but it's hard to go to BYU and beat a team. I mean, that's a solid team. So I'm with you. 9.5, I could easily see BYU covering this one. I'm definitely not, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think BYU is by far the better team. It should cover, so we'll see.
This is one I think if you want to bet BYU, you probably need to get it in early. I think there'll be late money coming. There's going to be late money coming on BYU, and it's going to get over 10. So I want to get it where I can get it at 2 scores to get me the win.
Yeah.
The other Friday night game, and this is one. If you would ask me 3 weeks ago, I'd have been like, "Oh, I'm hammering Fresno State as a 2.5 point favorite at Nevada." Well, Fresno State has not looked good the last 2 weeks, and Nevada has actually played really well after a kind of a rough start to the year. A tough 35-31 loss to San Jose State, who I had San Jose State in that game. I think it was 6.5. So they covered that one. And then a really nice win against Oregon State last week, 42-37. Fresno State's coming off a 25-17 loss to Washington State and a 59-14 loss at UNLV. I think I'm avoiding this one. If you actually twisted my arm and said, who you taking? Just off history and the players, I probably want Fresno State, but playing at Nevada and the way that Nevada has played lately, this one, it should be a 1-score game. I'm probably staying away. If I had to take a bet, I'm probably taking Fresno State the -2.5.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would probably, just because I've probably seen a little bit more in Nevada, and I just, even in their losses, they've played tough. They're just one of those scrappy teams, you know what I mean? This one should definitely be a close game. I'd probably give Nevada the edge just because you're catching some points and they're at home. This might be one too. It's kind of a coin toss. If you were going to put together like a money line underdog parlay, you could throw Nevada in there because they could definitely win this game, But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like Nevada as a team.
I can see where you're at there. Like I said, I'm pretty wide open on that one. The next one, team you were on earlier in the year, I'm still in shock. Indiana. Man, the freaking
6-0 Indiana, baby.
Hoosiers are 6-0, ranked 16th in the country, playing 5-1 Nebraska. 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time on Fox. -6.5 for Indiana at home against Nebraska. I never thought I'd see Indiana favored almost a touchdown against Nebraska. Ever in my lifetime did I ever think I'd see that. Do you think the Hoosiers have enough to keep things going here, or does Nebraska come in and knock them off? I mean, Curtis Rourke has been phenomenal at QB so far this year for Indiana, something they haven't seen in a long time. Almost 1,800 passing yards, 292 a game, almost 300 a game, 14 TDs this year, 192 rating for him. He's been fantastic. He's been the difference maker for the Hoosiers.
It'd be hard for me to not have faith in Indiana. They've done nothing but play good football and cover games all year long. So, and I think this is a really, really close matchup. I think Nebraska's pretty good. They're pretty good defensively. They got a true freshman quarterback, so that's a little scary. You could see a turnover that could cost them or something like that. But I don't know. I like Indiana in this one too. I'm not saying they're going to win by a touchdown. I like them to come out ahead in the end here, though.
I mean, the crazy thing is, Benny, we're 6 games in the college football season, week 8. Indiana tied with Penn State and Oregon at 6-0, 3-0 in the conference right now, and right behind them, 5-1 Illinois, 5-1 Nebraska, and 5-1 Ohio State.
I know the Big Ten is
didn't see that coming. Did not see that coming at all.
The Big Ten is wild. Illinois could easily beat Michigan this weekend. I mean, I don't think Michigan.
Oh, it's going to be ruckus there. A sellout crowd. They're doing the 100th anniversary of the Red Grange team. They've got, if you have not seen online, the throwback unis that Illinois is wearing.
Oh, yeah,
they're
right.
awesome. They have painted helmets where they look like old leather helmets. They're freaking sweet. Go to Twitter, go to the internet, go to Google Images, look it up. Illinois Centennial jerseys. They're freaking great. I want to bet on them just because of that reason.
Plus the fact that they snuck away with the win last week against Purdue. Like, I think that's going to almost make them focus even more. And I really just don't think Michigan's that good. I mean, their defense is pretty good and should be good, but I don't see them being really any better than us. I don't know. Illinois could win that. They got Oregon, and then they could end up somehow only having 3 losses or something crazy like that at the end of the year. That'd be crazy. But Indiana's in the same boat. If you look at their schedule, I mean, it's nuts. They're going to be an underdog and maybe one game they got left. So.
I had just pulled up the schedule. If they beat Nebraska at home this week, they got Washington at home next week, which if you beat Nebraska, Washington's beatable, especially at home. Going to Washington would be a much tougher game. They got Washington at home. They're at Michigan State. They're better than Michigan State, even at Michigan State. They're at home for Michigan. I can't even believe that I say this, but they're going to be favored in that game.
Yep.
Unless they just fall apart the next 3 weeks, they're going to be favored in that game. They're at Ohio State, which this is the crazy thing is if they beat Nebraska and they end up, and then they finish the year at home against Purdue, if they end up with 1 loss, they're making the playoffs. Indiana. If Indiana makes the playoffs the first year of a 12-team playoff, I would that's just insanity. It's insanity if they make it.
They'll be in the Big Ten championship game, wouldn't they? I mean, I don't know.
It's wild how this is working with it. Yeah, but they are right in the mix. I think unless teams fall apart, I think 3 Big Ten teams get in to the playoff, and right now they're slightly ahead of a few other teams. Now there's, Penn State's got a couple of tough matchups. Oregon's still got a couple of tough matchups. Ohio State, Ohio State, if they can finish up strong, they're going to get in. If they're one by a point at Oregon, they're obviously going to get in. But Indiana, sneaky outside. You know what a bet we need to look up, Benny? And I didn't think about this before the show, or I would have looked it up. If you can put a bet on Indiana to make the 12-team playoff. I wonder what you could get those odds at right now. They would be real interesting. But even Nebraska, if Nebraska beats Indiana this week, they're in the same boat. Nebraska wins this game. They have 1 loss. They're at Ohio State next week. But then they finish the year. UCLA, that's a win. At USC, who's been, here and there, depending on the week. Home versus Wisconsin, that's a winnable game. And then at Iowa to finish it up. So they've got a little bit tougher road that Indiana has, but they've only got 1 loss. Again, if you finish 10-2 or a really good 9-3, you could make the playoffs, depending on what some of these other teams, because there's a lot of ranked teams that still have to play each other. So there's going to be some teams that are going to get knocked off and the records are going to get worse. So real interesting matchup there. I never thought I'd say a Nebraska-Indiana game was almost a must watch, but if you're in Big Ten country, that's going to be a gigantic game.
Yeah, there's going to be some big ones coming down the stretch in this Big Ten conference. I'm trying to find Indiana to make the playoff here. I'm not even finding odds on DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that one up and see if I can find that here in a bit. Got to plug my phone. I'm about dying here. Next game we have on the slate is Miami at Louisville. This one has got me nervous. I would typically. I would be like, I'm all over Miami here. I think Miami works Louisville, but man, they've been playing with fire for weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
And
They sure have.
this is a sneaky good Louisville team at home that has a pretty tough defense. If they could stay in this one, I mean, Miami came back from 38-10 down, I think it was, at Cal to win 39-38, and then the Hail Mary to win 38-34 against Virginia Tech. So, I mean, this team is playing with fire. You know, the ACC, they want Miami to finish undefeated or with one loss because they want to see this team make the playoff.
Right.
This is a huge game for Miami because if you look at the rest of the schedule here for Miami, it's not that difficult after this game. You're home for Florida State. You're home for Duke. Those should be wins. You're at Georgia Tech, which could be sneaky. At home for Wake Forest, that should be a win. And then you're at home for Syracuse in the final. And I like Syracuse. I think they're pesky, but that should be a game where Miami is probably at least a touchdown favorite. So if Miami gets by Louisville here, you're literally going, we got at Georgia Tech and at Syracuse, the two games keeping us from getting out of the playoffs. And again, if they only lose one of those, they win the ACC and they're in.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this is a huge game for Miami. I would say I'm taking them to win by a touchdown here.
Here's
this game's got me nervous.
Louisville 4-2. They're not coming in this game thinking they still have a chance to win the ACC.
They think definitely think they're still in the mix. If you look at their schedule, kind of finishing off here, if they could beat Miami because they just got a nice 24-20 win against.
Honestly, gotten some big breaks.
They've got really lucky. They've got really lucky.
The one that maybe could have been an interception on that Friday night game or that Thursday night game. I can't remember who that was against, but it was, the ball basically.
Oh, yeah, that was the Virginia Tech Hail Mary where they originally called it a pick. Then they said he pulled it away and it was a touchdown. I mean, like I said, they've been playing with fire for weeks.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I think this is a dangerous. This would be one where, again, if I was throwing a money line parlay together just for fun, I would probably throw Louisville in there because I could totally see Miami, dropping the ball on this one.
Yeah, I would be on Miami here, but like I told you, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about the points on this one, Miami. I would feel better taking, like you said, Louisville on the money line, dog parlay, or taking the points at +5 and keeping it close. Army, we're going to move through a couple of these games pretty quick because we got a few to get through here in this show before we pile on a huge show. Army right now is a 15.5 point favorite, over under 51.5. They've just been rolling. Army's 6-0, ranked 23 in the country. Usually, I tell you, every week, I'm like, man, I just don't like these big spreads on Army. I had it at 50.5. It's up to 16 now on DraftKings, but they keep smoking every week. They are not giving up more than 1 or 2 touchdowns. I'm all over Army. I'm all over Army. I think they win this one. I said last week, I'm just like, man, it makes me nervous, but they are piling up points. Yeah, no, they're rolling people, and it's, they got that offense cooking. It's still kind of primarily a run offense, and everybody knows it, but you can't seem to stop it. And everybody they play against, nobody can stop it. So, I mean, they must be running that thing to perfection, and they got some athletes out there. They're running it up. Yeah, they've got some guys that when they do throw the ball, they're scoring some big time plays, like deep, long touchdowns. The crazy thing is right now they're 22nd in the country in scoring, just under 40 a game. They're number 5 in total defense, 9.83 points a game. It's a tough team, right? They're literally winning by 30 points a game. Army, I have to say I wasn't a believer early on. I was like, man, they're playing well, but I don't know. I'm liking Army, man. They've won me over. I'm in on Army. That Army Navy game is going to be that's going to be a barn burner, man. Navy's 5-0 too, so that's going to be like must see TV for Army. The crazy thing is, one of those teams could make the playoff if they finish undefeated. Now that they're ranked, that's the big thing is you got to get in there and get ranked. You could get in, and if you look at the remaining schedule, it's going to come down to Navy and Notre Dame for Army. They got East Carolina this week. They've got Air Force, who's terrible this year. They're going to work Air Force. They're at North Texas, which will be a tough game. then you're at Notre Dame, University of Texas, San Antonio, and then Navy. So it's still a lot of work to do here if you're Army, but it's going to be interesting.
If it comes
coming
down
down
to that Notre Dame game, though, I'm going to be pulling hard for Army.
Yeah, it would be awesome to see. I mean, and we've got right now Army 23, Navy 25. Ranked in the country. Navy on the other side. Navy has got Charlotte this week. Then they've got Notre Dame. So you got Notre Dame playing both of these teams coming up, and then they've got to play each other. So still real interesting, what we could get there from either of those teams. The next one, my Missouri Tigers. It hasn't been pretty. It's been a little ugly. They got the big win against Massachusetts, did what they had to do, and rolled UMass last week. It's not been pretty. They're still 19th in the country, but they've dropped after the one big loss at Texas A&M, which I think Texas A&M, it was a tough place to play. They just played terrible. I mean, everything went against them in that game, and Texas A&M played outstanding. I think Missouri's better than people are giving them credit for. I think I'm all over Missouri at 4.5 here. I think at home
Auburn's not that great.
Auburn is not that great. I agree with you. I think they're a decent team. I think they can hang around. But with this one being 4.5, I think Missouri wins this one by 7 to 10 points. I think they get the win at home. The schedule, people kind of ripped them early on, like, oh, they didn't play anybody. Buffalo has upset some people, and they beat them 38-0. Boston College has played everyone tough, and they won 27-21. Vandy, everybody made fun of them for winning an OT, and now Vandy looks really good. They beat Alabama. Texas A&M, only loss for Texas A&M is to Notre Dame in the opener. So, again, we're looking – they've had some really a fairly tough schedule compared to what people said it was going to be. This offense, Brady Cooks has really got to get it going. He's kind of been the issue this year. He's not been bad. He just hasn't been as good as he was last year. If he can get it going, I like it. And then this quarterback situation in Auburn, they're kind of trying everybody out because it's just kind of been a mess. I'm on Missouri at home here. I think Missouri gets right. And starts because they're still in the mix. They're 5-1. If they've got left on the schedule, Missouri can still make the playoffs as well as we took a bet earlier in the year about them making the playoffs. If they beat Auburn here, they've got at Alabama next week, which is going to be a monster game. Home for Oklahoma. Then they got at South Carolina, Mississippi State, Arkansas. So not an easy stretch. Much harder than people would have thought early on. And South Carolina has been impressive, and Arkansas has been way better than people thought. So a decent little run here. But I think if they can get this win this week, and then they can win all but one of these last games, and if they just can lose one, and they can go 10-2, I think they got to get in. I think they have to get in the playoff at 10-2. I think they start right in the ship this week against Auburn. I like them at 4.5. I'm going to get on that one a little early because I think that number is going to rise.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, Auburn, I guess they are coming off a couple tough teams. I mean, Georgia, Oklahoma before that. So
they've been in some games. That's why I said I think this is a 7 to 10 point game. I think Auburn's in it. I don't think Missouri blows them out by any means, but I think Missouri can win this game by 7.
Yeah, by touchdown. I'm with you 100% there. Home game. And like I said, coming off that, they basically nothing went right for them in that game, but they did kind of get throttled. So they should be ready to go here this week for sure.
The next game on the schedule here, Clemson versus Virginia, -21 for Clemson right now. Virginia's played people tough, coming off a 4-point loss to Louisville, a 10-point win against Boston College. Clemson, 49-14 win against Wake Forest. Clemson's looked really good since that early season loss in the opener to Georgia. I think Clemson wins this game, but for some reason, Virginia's been sneaky tough. 3 touchdowns feels like too much to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're gonna lay and take points, you gotta roll with Virginia here. Clemson, no doubt in my mind, Clemson ends up winning this game. Clemson actually has a path to get a pretty good, seed in the playoff as well.
Absolutely, because it could come down to Clemson, Miami. It really could be the game. Honestly, decide who wins the ACC.
Clemson to me has looked better than Miami. I mean, just in terms of
absolutely
the way that they've I mean, they've been dominant against some of these teams, and they've really turned it on. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this though. Virginia is a pretty solid team, and I can see them keeping this under 3 scores for sure. But Clemson wins this game for
Yeah, I
sure.
think they do too. Clemson all the way up to number 10 in the country, which is, a very good sign for them for
Yeah,
their playoffs. If they win the ACC, obviously they're in. If they can even finish with 1 loss, I think there's a chance, even if they
they're
don't win
in.
the ACC, they get in.
Yep.
Next game on the list, need I say more? Rutgers versus UCLA, -4.5 for Rutgers at home. I'm all over Rutgers. I'm going to continue to bet against UCLA every game this year. That's what I'm doing. They've already got me. I've been snake bitten a
It's a
couple
pretty good
times,
strategy, really.
and now they've ticked me off because they've covered a couple times when they had no business covering. So now I'm just hammering against them every week out of just spite.
Yeah, and I think last week kind of proved, and we talked about it last week, how in these conferences that have realigned a little bit, these teams that have to go across the country, whether it's one of these schools on the East Coast having to go all the way to the West Coast or vice versa, it's proven to be a factor for sure. I mean, we saw it last week with Iowa. We called that. It's like, Iowa's at home. It's an 11 o'clock game, and Washington's got to come all the way across the country and play, at 11, which is basically like 9 o'clock their time. It's the
8
same kind
o'clock
of
their time.
scenario.
Yeah, 8
Yeah.
o'clock West Coast time.
So
Yeah.
it's the
So
same
these guys are getting
scenario.
up at 6 a.m., 5:30,
Yeah.
6 a.m. Yeah,
And Rutgers is solid, man. I'm
they've
with you
been good.
100%. I'm
Yeah,
on
I think
Rutgers
Rutgers. I
all the
mean,
way there.
I'm almost I'm almost in smash mode here on Rutgers.
Yeah,
I think this is
I don't see how they don't
I
win
think
this game by a
Rutgers
touchdown or
wins
more.
by a touch, and their defense has been tough. I think it's a low scoring game.
Yeah.
I like Rutgers in
And
this
they're going to
one.
be a little salty after last week. So
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
with you.
Jumping down here, we're gonna skip a few games. 11:45 game, Central Time, South Carolina +2.5 at Oklahoma. This one is interesting. Both these teams have not been great, but they've also still been kind of good. It's weird. Like South Carolina's 3 and
Yeah.
3, Oklahoma's 4 and 2, even though it feels like
They're
Oklahoma's way worse than 4
they're
and 2,
both
doesn't
hard
it?
teams to
They're
back
hard teams
because you
to
just
figure
don't know
out.
what they're going to do. One week they look like they could play with anybody. The next week they just lay an egg. So this is a tough one, I think. Tough one to kind of decide.
Yeah, man, I think
Um,
I'm avoiding this one. I just
yeah.
like you just said,
Yeah.
I don't know which team's showing up.
Right.
We're either one of these teams. I could see anything having this game. I could absolutely see one team
Yep.
blowing out the other team. I could see it going down to the wire. I could see both teams putting up a bunch of points or no one scoring and it's 10-7. Like
Yeah,
these
it's
teams
such
have
a
just
tough
been
one to call.
so all over the place this year. These are the games I don't want to bet. Like I'll
Yeah.
watch it.
If anybody's
Should
got
be
a
an
brewing
interesting
up
game, but I don't want to
on
get
that
money on it.
game, yeah, let us know if somebody's got some insight on that one.
Yeah, insider likes. Yeah, definitely give us a heads up if there is something you like there. Skipping to the 2:30 game, Alabama -3 at Tennessee, over under 56.5. This one is a huge game in the SEC, especially with Alabama taking the loss last week to Vanderbilt. This game becomes super important for Alabama. They are 5-1. They're ranked 7th in the country. Tennessee's 5-1, ranked 11th. But when you look at the remaining schedule for Alabama, if they take a second loss already at Tennessee, they still got Missouri at home, at number 8 LSU, at Oklahoma, and then, obviously the Iron Bowl to finish out the year against Auburn. A win here, and you almost feel like Alabama's guaranteed in. A
Yeah.
loss here, and you're going, okay, Alabama has to win out. If
Yep.
they lose here and they go to 5-2, they got to win out, including winning at LSU, which would be a monster game to get into the playoff. If anybody gets in at 9-3, I think it's Alabama.
Yep.
But it'd be interesting. I don't want to be one of those 9-3 teams hoping and begging I get it.
No, me either. And this is a great game, I think. I mean, these teams are very similar. Probably give the edge to Alabama just on pure, like, overall roster talent. I mean, Alabama's just got some guys, man. But they've, I mean, they've lost. They lost to our guy Diego there, and it's like
Yeah, and they gave up
I don't know
40
if
to
it's
Vandy.
coaching or game plan or what, and they screwed around and should have got beat last week, and it's like they shouldn't be in these close games like that, really. But
Yeah.
man, I don't know.
If
Tennessee's at home too, so
if I'm doing
it's
anything
a
in
good
this,
one.
Benny, I think I want to jump on the over. And if I'm
Yeah,
taking a
this game could
teaser,
get crazy.
I
Yeah.
I could see this game getting wild.
Mhm.
I could see scores like us getting a bunch of like 60, 70-yard touchdowns where teams are putting up points out of nowhere. If I'm taking a teaser this week, I'm absolutely moving this one down to 49.5.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think these teams can get in the 50s for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely doing. If I just took it straight up, I'm taking the over. This game just screams wild plays, big
Yeah.
SEC
Yeah.
ball game. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think this game easily could go either way. So I don't want to take the points, or I don't want to take either team
Yeah.
to win it. But I would take the over and just sit back and hope it's just a free for
It
all
just
and just
gets
enjoy
it's
it.
crazy. Yeah. And I don't know. I know it's, both teams can play some defense, but man, I'm with you on it. This definitely feels like the kind of game that it may not really take off until you know, the second half or even the fourth quarter. But then you could see the end of this game just getting crazy where it's back and forth. And then the next thing it's an easy over. So that's where I would lean in that game for sure.
So the next big one, we got Notre Dame minus 12 at Georgia Tech, over under 49. I really want to take Georgia Tech in this game, but Haynes King, their quarterback's banged up, questionable whether he's going to play this week. We already talked about college teams don't have to come out and tell you exactly what's happening with these guys till the very end.
Yeah.
Not knowing what's going on with him, I'm avoiding this game. If he doesn't play, I could see Notre Dame rolling him. But if he plays and he plays well, because he's that dual threat guy, and we've seen Notre Dame has had problems putting points on the board a few times this year. They've looked good in some games, and the other games just like, what is this offense doing? They're 5-1. Off to a good start. They just put up 49 against Stanford. They had the nice 31-24 win against Louisville. Obviously the huge upset, one of the upsets of the year so far, was that 16-14 loss at home to Northern Illinois. I'm staying away from this one. If it ends up being Haynes King ends up getting the start and this game gets up to 2 touchdowns or more, then that would be when I jump on Georgia Tech at home.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to stay away from this. I'm going to wait until, later in the year when Notre Dame, well, actually it's next week when they got to play Navy. That's when I'm going to fade Notre Dame. If Navy's like a 7 to 10 point favorite at Navy, and then maybe even at Army too, or I guess they're home against Army, but that's when you fade Notre Dame, because they're definitely gonna screw around and lose at least one more game this year. There's no doubt, but yeah, I'm with you on this one. This is a tough one to call with Georgia Tech and the injury potential. I could see this going either way.
Jumping on the next game here, and we already talked about it a little bit, so we might as well talk about this game. Navy at home against Charlotte. Navy currently 5-0, ranked in the top 25 for the first time this season. Charlotte 3-3 currently. They're coming off a nice 55-24 win against East Carolina. Again, Navy, it's tough. You say, 17 is a ton for a running team, but this team has been good. Their quarterback has been absolutely phenomenal this year. Blake Horvath has been incredible. The guy can run the ball. His passing stats, every week, 7 of 10, 9 of 12, 9 of 11, and putting up long passes. I mean, he's averaging close to 17 yards per attempt, which is wild. That means when they're completing the ball, they're completing deep bomb passes. I mean, their guys are getting long receptions. They look good. I'm on Navy at home minus 17. I feel like these two teams, Army and Navy, are ready. They're just going to keep rolling it, and then it's going to come down to the big each of them playing against Notre Dame and then playing each other at the end of the year.
100%. And here's the thing, like, I'm the guy that likes to play, certain spots. Like this team is definitely going to be like a down week because they're looking ahead to this game or that game. When you're talking about the academy teams, though, you could throw that stuff out the window because they're so regimented. They come in, they play the same way, regardless of who they're playing every week. So you're not going to get that 1 week where they're not prepared or they're just not ready to play.
They're not changing the game plan. Like
They
you
don't
said, it's not
change.
like they're going week to week, like, oh, we're doing this week, we're doing this. No, they're doing the same thing every week. It don't matter.
Every week, they're great at what they do. They do the same thing. You can count on them doing it. So you're not going to get that spot. You're not going to get that bad spot with a Navy or an Army like you would with some of these, giant schools that are maybe playing a team they should beat by 30, but they're looking ahead to that next week where they got to play, whatever that matchup is, and they go, okay, well, we can kind of coast through this game and win. The academy teams, they don't do it like that. They're the same every week. So I'm with you, man. I don't see where Navy. 17 is a lot of points. Charlotte, Navy's.
They had a nice game last week against East Carolina, but other than that, they've been susceptible. And again, like I said, with Navy and Army, I'm like, oh, it seems like so many points, but they've been blowing people out. They've won 34-7, 41-18, 30. They've covered 17 in every game but one. And the game they didn't cover was against Memphis, a really good Memphis team, and they won by 12 in a super back and forth game against Memphis. I'm leaning Navy here, man. The academies they've convinced me. I'm no longer on the offense. I think they're legit good.
I'm with you, and I'm looking forward to those games. They're coming up against Notre Dame and the Army Navy game. Those are going to be good.
Jumping down Hawaii, we love to take the late night Hawaii game, a 2:30 game here. Ugh, that kills me. I don't want any part of a Hawaii game in the middle of the afternoon. I think Washington State probably rolls them. It's minus 18.5 right now, over under 55.5, but I'm probably avoiding that one. I just don't like taking those early games in Hawaii. If I had to take something, I'm taking Washington State there.
Yeah, Wazoo all the way on that one.
Yep. Jumping down here a little bit farther. Seeing a few more games here. Trying to see if anything jumps at me. Yep. Colorado, Arizona. Colorado plus 3.5. A real tough 3-point loss last week. The question is, Travis Hunter went out with a shoulder injury. If he's back, I like Colorado to cover in this game. Here's who I like. I'm jumping on if Travis Hunter's healthy and he's going to play. The question is, how bad is the shoulder injury? If he plays, I'm taking Shadur Sanders over 300 passing yards. I'm taking Travis Hunter over 100 receiving yards at a touchdown. Ted McMillan over 100 receiving yards at a touchdown, and Fafita over 250 passing yards with a touchdown for him and probably 1 or 2 touchdowns for Sanders. That would be my same game parlay. I think this is going to be a real interesting game.
Yeah, total's almost 60. You're 58 right now. I'm with you. This is a fun game. This is the same game parlay kind of game for sure. So yeah, everything you just said about those props, I'm with you on that.
Jumping down here, a couple other games. I like San Jose State at home minus 11.5. I just like San Jose State this year. They're 4-2. They're going against a 1-5 Wyoming team who's really struggled. San Jose State is really passed the ball well. Big upset last week. Lost by 7 at Colorado State in a real tough game. Their only other loss was a 54-52 game at Washington State. This San Jose State team is not your old Spartans.
No,
they are a lot better than they have been. I think they win this game. Wyoming has not been good. Their only win is against a really bad Air Force team, and everybody else has basically blown them out other than San Diego State, who won by 3 last week.
Yeah, and we both know San Diego State's not great either. So, I'm with you. This is San Jose State. This is one I'm probably going to be on for sure.
Jumping on a couple more of these games. Do you like Texas A&M 15.5 at Mississippi State? Mississippi State has not been good. Do you like the Aggies to keep it rolling?
Yeah, I think this is a game. Sometimes
They
that
just have too much
momentum.
talent. I just don't think
Yeah,
Mississippi State can score against them. That's my
no,
thing. I mean, Mississippi State now, I'll have to be honest, they just lost by 10, only 10 at Georgia last week, which
yeah,
everyone lost in that game because everyone had Georgia at home rolling them.
right.
But A&M has looked pretty solid. The
Yeah,
50.5 seems like a lot. I just don't know, man. Mississippi State 2 weeks in a row. You just gave it your all at Georgia. You're coming home against Texas A&M. I feel like Texas
it's a
A&M
season
gets it to you.
crusher. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm with you.
they've got a lot of good defensive players. Here's an interesting LSU -2.5 at Arkansas, who's sneaky good. LSU snuck into the top 10 at number 8 right now. Over unders 55.5 on this one. I've been all over. I've been saying this is my player props. Garrett Nussmeier, 300 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. I've been taking it every week. I think he's hit it almost every game but one. I think this
Yeah,
season he's just been all over that. He is just the guy's got a cannon, man.
he can
I
sling it.
think he is. I think he's going to be a top quarterback pick in the NFL. I don't think
Yeah,
he comes out this year. I think he has a chance to be the number one guy next year if he stays.
if he says, yeah, I'm with you. I watched a lot of that LSU game last week, and he made a throw in the end of the game, and I mean the guy wasn't even open. He threw him open. It was all arm too. It was just like kind of reminded me like Jeff George. I mean, the way he just slung it out there. I mean, the guy can flat out throw it. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I just keep rolling those prop bets with LSU and Nussmeier.
Yep, absolutely. Vanderbilt. Look at this. 26-point favorite. Vanderbilt over under 58.5. Oh, Ball State's not been good this year. They're coming off a 2-point win against a pretty bad Kent State team. They've had a lot of close games this year. They absolutely got hammered by Miami 62-0. Lost to James Madison 63-7. Vandy, we just talked about the big 5-point win over Bama and then a 7-point win at Kentucky last week. This is a game they're going to win.
Oh yeah,
26 seems
no,
like a ton, man.
that's a lot.
I know they're playing well, and I know Ball
They're
State's
coming
not
off
good.
of two like huge wins, like two of the biggest wins in the history of the school.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean,
I'm staying away from this game. I cannot take Vandy -26. I just can't do it.
yeah, that's just so many points. In Ball State, you're right, it's terrible, but man, I don't know. Yeah,
I could see Vandy absolutely dominating this game, but not getting
but
up over
yeah,
the 26.
exactly.
And then we come to our game of the week. This one is an absolute monster. We've got Georgia, Texas. Number 5
Yeah,
Georgia 5-1 against number 1 Texas 6-0. Texas right now is a 4-point favorite. Over under is 56. This game 6:30 game Central Time, just a great matchup. Texas coming off the 34-3 win at Oklahoma. Like we said, Georgia just kind of sliding by Mississippi State, a 41-30 win last week. The defense has not been as good as we thought they would be. The offense has had to actually put up a few more points. This game, man, I'm pumped to watch this game.
yeah,
I'm not sure I want to bet this game right now. Texas has been good. I think Georgia is still, they have not played great, but they have the horses. They still have the horses.
yeah,
This one feels like just an absolute barn burner. I probably don't want to bet it, honestly, because I just want to watch it and enjoy it.
yeah. No, 100%. This is a game you don't need to bet to get into it at all. I do feel like this game is bigger for Georgia. You know what I mean? I mean, I know Texas
Mhm.
is at home, and it's not like they're gonna not play to their, they're gonna be all in. But man, it's almost like a must. If Georgia loses, they're in a spot now where they've got to win out, and
Yeah,
that's
they've
not an
got
easy task.
Mississippi. They still got to go at Mississippi and a home for Tennessee. So they still got two
Yeah,
big ones. If they lose this one and gets them their second loss of the year, they would have to get at least one of those Tennessee Mississippi games, if not both of them, to make the playoffs at 10
yeah,
and 2.
yeah. So I don't know. They're catching points. I think Texas is better. I'm with you though. I think I'm just gonna watch this game, see how it plays out. There'll be a lot. You'll learn a lot about both these teams watching this game. for sure.
And an interesting thing for Texas is they're at Vanderbilt next week. Wow, that's going to be interesting.
Who thought that was going to be a big game?
If Vanderbilt is hosting #1 Texas, wow! After they've already beat Alabama, and then they've got Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, 3 games you'd think they would win pretty handily, and then what would be a monster matchup the last week of the season at Texas A&M in that big rivalry game there would be pretty big. So I think you're right. I think this game there's a little more pressure on Georgia. I want to take Georgia in this game. I want to take the points because I feel like it's going to be a really close game. But like I said, I'm nervous about betting on it because I kind of want to just sit back and enjoy it and not have to worry about who I take and just want to watch a good game.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I'm with you there. What do you think about? We kind of glossed over it. Illinois, Michigan.
Oh yeah. I missed that one on the schedule. Let me pull that one up right here. Is obviously we're in the state of Illinois, so it's not on the board here.
Right.
What do you got here? I'm trying to pull up my.
I got Michigan as a 3-point favorite at Illinois, obviously. So Illinois.
Over under 43.5. These teams classically the last couple times they played have been absolute defensive battles.
Yep.
They've really played in low scoring, grinded out games. I think we're going to get a game that looks like that Penn State 21-7 game. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I think both these teams are going to play hard. I think it's going to come down to field goal. Man, obviously I'm pulling hard for the Illini.
I think it's going to be close, man.
I think it's going to be close, man. I think it's going to be close.
Last possession. It's going to be a really nice day. There's not going to be like any outside factors that are going to affect the game. So it's just going to be, I think you're right, man. I think it's going to be a low scoring. I would definitely look to the under. Obviously, Homer call of the week. I'm hoping for Illinois. If Illinois can win this, if they can pull this thing out, if they could pull it out, they'd be 6-1. They're going to Oregon next week. That's not going to be pretty probably, but man, this would be a big one because that would set Illinois up in a position to maybe only lose 3 or 4 games the whole year. So what the heck? I mean, this is the biggest game Illinois has had at home in a long time. So
absolutely. I mean, this is a monster one. I'm probably leaning the under. Like I said, it's 43.5 right now. I just think this, like you said, I think it's going to be a 1-score game. I think it's going to be close. I just don't see a lot of points. I think both teams are going to play it tight to the vest. I see that Penn State game. I think it could be almost exactly like that, where it's super close to the very end. Obviously, Penn State got a late score in that one in order to kind of put that one away, as that game was close throughout, though.
Yeah, I mean, like a missed field goal could be the difference in that one.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Any of these late games here, Benny, these 6:30 games, as you look at the slate, anything that kind of pops out you, anything you want to take? Kansas State -3 at West Virginia. Kansas State's played really well. A big 3-point win at Colorado last week. Kansas State would be my lean there at -3.
Yeah,
I like Iowa at the -6 at Michigan State. I think Iowa's playing tough. The offense has been better. I think Michigan State has got some players, but they just don't have it there yet. They don't have enough guys. I think Iowa can win that one by a TD.
I'm with you on that. I kind of like UNLV again this week. They're at Oregon State. It's a road game, and they are a 7-point favorite, but they should win that game.
I like UNLV at Oregon State. I think they're a better team there. These other games, we used to talk about it, Benny. I'd call you every year, and I'd be like, "It's Florida Kentucky week, hammer Florida," because they just absolutely
not that way anymore.
Kentucky, and it's not that way anymore. Kentucky has actually owned them the last couple of years. This is a game. If I was betting this game, I'm taking Kentucky. I can't even believe I'm saying that, but they've been a better team this year. I don't feel great about it just because it's at the Swamp. But Kentucky's defense has been legit. They played everybody tough this year. So for me, if I was taking somebody in that game, I'm probably staying away from it. But if I took somebody, the both teams are 3-3. I think this is a close ball game. But I would lean Kentucky in this one for me. Even though Florida, surprisingly, 6-point game against Tennessee last week, I was shocked that they stayed in that
They
game. I
had
had
them, man.
Tennessee.
They had Tennessee. They really did. I mean, that would have been a huge upset. This is probably I know it's only 42, but I'd lean under in this game too. Kentucky, Florida.
Yep, I agree with you. I would lean the under in that one. So, Benny, as we've run through the schedule here, we're kind of winding down the show. We've kind of went through the picks. You got any feelings? Anything deep in those plums? You got anything you really like? You want to pull out here?
I was in the Iowa game was last week, so that one was hit. I'm 3-2 on the season since we've been doing these. Man, when was the one we both liked it? Yeah.
You look through there. I'm going to build my JT parlay play of the day. Benny, do you know who you like?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to build, and I'm going to do this. I didn't actually do one in advance. Usually I do one in advance. I did not tonight. So, Benny, let's build a JT parlay play of the day live on the air here. Let's go back to the beginning of the day. Let's flip back through here, go through some of these games I said I liked that I want to build up a parlay. I'm going through. I'm on BYU minus 9.5, so I'm throwing that one in the parlay. 9.5 is minus 112 right now. I'm jumping on them. Jumped out. I'm on Army minus 16 against East Carolina. I'm jumping on them. I like Missouri at minus 4.5 at minus 108. I'm on them. Rutgers minus 4.5 at minus 108. I'm on them. That's 4 picks for me. I did tell you I do like Navy a lot. I'm going to jump on Navy. You know what, Benny? I think I'm going to buy a point in the Navy game.
Okay.
I think I'm going to buy a point in the Navy game. They're not letting me buy a point on this one. Closer to game time, they might let me. So I'm just going to take it at the minus 17. Let's just take it at the minus 17. Get in there right now. Let me get back to the screen here. So that's my 5-pick parlay. I might just stick with that. Let me see if there's one more game that jumps out at me that I really like, or if I'm just going to stick with this as my 5-pick parlay. Jumping through some of the later games we talked about. I'm going to throw my boys San Jose State in here, minus 11.5. That's going to be my parlay pick. So here we go. This is my pick. This is my JT parlay play of the day. For those of you who do not know about the JT parlay play of the day, this is my crazy bet. This is when I put I just want to get huge odds. I want to put a big parlay. I'm taking a 5 or 6 teamer. Just missed last week. Illinois was up 21 at halftime. They ended up winning by a point. I had a minus 20.5. Everybody else hit in my 5-teamer. It was that one was at plus 2,000. That one was. So this one right now here, Benny, if we put this together on DraftKings right now, BYU minus 9.5, Army minus 16, Missouri minus 4.5, Rutgers minus 4.5, Navy minus 17.5. If I can buy it to 16, I'll do that. And San Jose State minus 11.5. 6-pick parlay is plus 4,828. Plus 4,828. That is going to be my JT parlay play of the day. And actually, before I forget, I'm going to take a little screenshot of that one so I can get that one in there later because I like that one. It's a little bit of a monster, folks, but that's kind of what we do with the JT parlay play of the day. But that is what we're going to do on this one. I like it. What do you think about that one, Benny?
I love it, man. You 2 of the picks in there were ones I was leaning, so I love it. San Jose State I was looking at, and then what was Rutgers? I mean, both of those to me are just that parlay is going to be down the wire. I love that one.
All right, so we got our Benny D filling the plums pick of the week. What do you got, Benny? What's the feeling? What is it? What's in there?
This is going to be. I can't even believe I'm going to say this. This is the most classic plums pick of all time, too, because it really makes no sense whatsoever. I just feel like this is going to happen. Give me Florida State +3 at Duke. I can't believe I'm saying it, but we both said it's fishy. It's so fishy that you just got to take Florida State. It doesn't make any sense. Give it to me.
That is a plums pick. That's going deep in the plums on that one.
And it's going to take some plums to make that bet too. So, I mean, man, that's ugly, but we'll do it.
That's a good one. So I talked about it briefly during the show, but some player props that I'm going to like and get on as we get closer to it. Some of these come out early. Some of them don't, depending on what book you're using. Sometimes the college ones, they come out a little later. I usually wait on those and kind of get them either Friday night or Saturday morning, kind of depending where we're at. I told you the Arizona game, I'm going to be all over Tet McMillan over receiving yards and a touchdown, possibly 2 touchdowns. I think that game is going to be high scoring. I'm also going to be on Shadur Sanders over 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns for him. Depending on Travis Hunter, his availability, I'm going to go possibly over 100 yards and a touchdown on him. If Travis Hunter doesn't play, I'm going to look at LeJontay Wester. I'm going to look at putting in some what his yardage is and a possible touchdown for him. And I think he could be a sneaky play if there is no Hunter. I told you Garrett Nussmeier. I'm taking him over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game against Arkansas. He's been an absolute stud in those games this year. Avery Johnson, anytime rushing touchdown for Kansas State. Their QB at home at West Virginia. He runs the ball well. I like him if you want to get a touchdown parlay in there. And then who was another one I'm probably going to be on this week?
Yeah, the Colorado game.
Yep, that Colorado. Yep, I like all those guys in that one. I usually have been all over Cam Ward, passing yards and touchdowns.
Yeah.
The question is, if we think Miami loses, I think Louisville's defense plays really well. So that one has me a little scared. So I'm probably avoiding that one this week because of that. But those are the guys I kind of really jump on that I like. Those are what I'm looking. If I see anything else closer to game time that I like, I'll post it on the X at JT Orange. Benny, if you got anything, you can throw it on your page at Ben Dyer 8. Anything you're thinking about player props before we close out the show?
The ones you mentioned are the ones that I always kind of look to as well. So I'm with you on all those. I will say I just looked up Oregon first half against Purdue, and it's 16. I kind of like that as well.
Okay. I like where your head's at on that one. Another one I'm going to look at because he's just been an absolute beast this year. Caleb Johnson, running back for Iowa at Michigan State. He's only had 1 game under 100 yards rushing this year and only 2 games under 160. So if you like them and you like Caleb Johnson, I'm probably going to jump on Caleb Johnson, depending on where the odds are, somewhere between 100 and 125 rushing yards and at least a touchdown. He's got 2 touchdowns or more in every game this year. The only game he didn't hit 100 yards and 2 touchdowns at Ohio State, 86 yards and a touchdown at Ohio State. I'm going to jump on him. Probably 125 to 150. I feel comfortable rushing yards, and I'm going to take 2 touchdowns for Caleb Johnson. So if you can put those together, I like that. I like going the idea of like maybe doing Caleb Johnson, 150 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, Nussmeier, 300 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Take little of those same game parlays with 2 of them with a guy and kind of put those together. And then I'm probably going to put in, I'll have one for you, but I'm going to put in a probably a very solid probably 5 or 6 pick same game parlay on the Colorado Arizona game. As we get a little closer to that, I think there's going to be some blinds I like in that. I think the running back for Arizona, depending on where his yards rushing go, Conley, he's been really good this year. I could see me taking over rushing yards. Again, I need to see what the status is of Travis Hunter. If he does not play, if I can get like Jimmy Horn, Wester, Shepard, all at like 40 plus or 50 plus receiving yards, I think he's going to spread it around. I will take a bunch of those guys like over 40 or over 50 receiving yards. I like those too. So that's probably going to do it for this week. Week 8, a lot of big, nice matchups this week.
Yeah.
In college football, Benny, it's been a fun season so far. We just got to keep it running. We just got to keep those bets rolling. Let's get a little more money.
See how this all shakes out, you know, in terms of just the playoff and everything else, because it's still up for grabs right now, man. I mean, there's
it's wide open. There's so many big games coming down the stretch here. Definitely, we're going to keep an eye out if we can find some odds to make the playoffs. If there's any kind of long shot odds or anything like that, I'm going to keep my eye out and kind of do some search around there, because the Hoosiers would be a wild one to see where they would be at right now. But that's going to do it for us here on the Stew with JT Brew on Fantasy and Frames. If you get a chance, like us, subscribe to the Stew with JT Brew, also to Fantasy and Frames, all kinds of content shows tomorrow night, Wednesday night on Fantasy and Frames, shows all night long, all your fantasy action, NFL, IDP, Dynasty, Redraft, all the good stuff for you tomorrow night. So definitely check that out. And as always, may all your bets hit and the trading never quit. See you next time on the Stew.
You up on trades and wire moves, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.